The EU has a similar set of targets, and they also have a funding for energy projects or sustainable development projects. They will co-fund if they are in the framework of the EU. So I mean, all these things has to be prepared before we start this. So if you have a special renewable energy plan, planning has to be public. We need local resources and local businesses to be involved. It has to make sense, so to speak, what's in it for me, kind of. If there's no what's in it for me, people don't care about it. It doesn't concern me. It's not my business. We'll leave it to somebody else. You have to involve people in this process. And the result is more jobs, better local economy, local capacity building. People will get more wisdom, more knowledge about how to do this if they get their contracts, if they get their hands on it, and they will be interested in more development. This little step will demand a new, bigger step afterwards, which, I mean, then we can start the snowball running. And the money will stay in the community, which is also one good thing. To make this happen, today, energy projects is very complicated and very expensive. It costs a lot of money to make things like this. So normal people cannot do that. If you're an ordinary guy or woman having a 9-to-4 job, then when you come back, you cannot sit down and make an energy project because it's millions of money that goes into that. It takes a secretariat, it takes kind of a whole office to run all these paperworks and do the legislation and get the permission and all these sort of things. So we have established what we call the Energy Office. We are one out of 20 energy offices in Denmark, trying to help people to do this. We have public opening hours, we inform, and we do all sort of things to make people active in this process. We make campaigns and demonstrations. What is more interesting, we make open house projects. So if some of the first movers, they have installed something interesting, we say to them, next Sunday, can you have an open house meeting? And we put an advertisement in the newspaper saying that you should come to this, address this house, because Mr. This or Mrs. This will show her new solar or her new installation. And the fun thing is that people will go out there and have a look for themselves, and they will believe more in what the private person say than in what I say, because I'm the expert. And of course I promote solar energy. Of course I say to them they should buy shares in wind turbines. But if they hear it from a private person who says that, well, in the beginning it was very complicated, I couldn't make the valve work, and the solar was boiling and all these other things, but now it's good, it's working, and I open the hot water tap and they pour out hot water, and I mean just waste hot water and say, I can do that because it's mine. I produce it myself from the solar, it's for free, so I'm a rich man, I can do whatever I want with it. That is really convincing, and people saying, that's a cool story, I want to have one in my home. So you have to make success stories, and then people will move. They can make a lot of choices on what they want to do. This is actually my old math teacher on the island. I didn't like him much when I was a young kid. But today he's a retired guy, and he had a retirement pension, which a lot of people have. And a lot of people lost a lot of money during this financial crisis because they invested their financial pension in risky investments, and they lost their money now. This guy, he invested his retirement pension in a solar PV on the roof. He's been quoted in National Geographic or in New York Times for saying that it's so much more fun to have the money on the roof than in the bank. And the good thing about this is that every day he'll go out and he has got a small book where he notes the production and the consumption of electricity in his house. So he'll go out, he's got a small screen with a red and a black, red and a green monitor, saying that now I'm producing a little bit more than I'm consuming. But if he comes home and see that the curve has changed, that he is now consuming more than he is producing, then you see this old guy running around the house and plugging out everything and switching off everything, which is very interesting because this means that he is off grid, and then now he wants to be producing. So he's living in the dark, but he's living happily because he has a goal in his life now. And to this big project where we are the project secretariat of the offshore wind turbines. This is me, I'm the secretary. This is the beefy farmer. Did you see the New Yorker? Have you seen the article in the New Yorker about my project? Hey, are you a journalist or what? Haven't you done any research before this? Come on, I'm very proud of that article. It was 8 pages in the New Yorker about this project. And my friend, he was quoted as the beefy farmer from the island. That was maybe not so nice, but Here's the chairman of the project, this is the director, and this is the accountant. 4 local guys producing this very big project. But to do that, we had a meeting, and another meeting, and another meeting, and a meeting again. We met and met and met all the times, because we had to talk to people. They had to be kind of convinced and feel comfortable about making decisions. We couldn't just kind of show up as experts and tell people what to do and what not to do, but we had to tell them what they could do. And then they had to make up their minds if they wanted to join us and to invest in the project and to be part of the planning also. It took a lot of coffee to come that far. I gained a lot of pounds because of all the Danish I had to eat because I had to be at this meeting. Local heating is the same. This is the work group for local heating. This is a chairman and a bunch of local people. Everyone is having a beer in his hand, celebrating the opening of this new district heating scheme. They made this, these guys. We helped them, but they made it. We buy straw from the farmers. This is the local resource. This is CO2 neutral because it absorbs the same amount of CO2 as is released when we burn it. But this is so much better than oil, because when we buy oil, we just send money out of the island, and we buy oil, and then we consume the oil, and then it's gone. Maybe we do something, but mostly we use it for heating or driving. But this is much better because then the money will stay on the island because we buy the heat from the farmers, and they probably buy something back again from the shop or from somebody else. This makes much more local economy and improves the household economy a lot. We have established small decentralized district heating plants. This is a solar heated district heating plant, 2,500 square meters of solar thermal, feeding into this tank, 800 cubic meters of hot water, and feeding into 200 homes. We have 4 or 5 of them on the island, five of them on the island now, and they're very good, and they produce cheaper heat than they had before based on oil. So I mean, everybody is happy about this. This is the island development. For district heating, we have introduced district heating in these areas, and this means that we have now 75% of all heating is from district heating sources, from renewable energy sources. For wind power, we have established 11 onshore wind turbines like this, and these 11 turbines, they are producing all the electricity we need on the island. So this means that 100% of the wind, this is not working so good. What's happening here? This means that we have now more than 100% of the electricity is produced from our own wind turbines. For transportation, it's a little bit worse because we cannot change our present transportation because we cannot buy the electric cars. But to compensate for that, we have established 10 offshore wind turbines, and they are producing more energy altogether than the entire island uses on transportation, cars and trucks and ferries and everything. And we send this electricity by a mainland cable to Jutland, and then we can say we reduce the CO2 emission from the coal-fired power plant, and we can then have a CO2, you could say, quota we can use on transportation. And the result is that we have reduced more than 140% of the CO2 emission we had in 1998, which is pretty good. The average Danish CO2 emission is about 10 tons per inhabitant. The average Samso, for my island, CO2 emission is minus 3.7 tons. I mean, so we are the good guys. What's your quota? I mean, we can talk about that afterwards, if you have any confessions. These are the offshore turbines. This is a co-op-owned turbine, owned by 450 local residents. Number 2, 3, 4, 5, and number 10 is owned by the local municipality. They bought their energy consumption in offshore wind turbines. This is a very rare thing. Not a lot of communities do that. Not a lot of municipalities will dare to do that on behalf of the citizens. Number 6, 8, and 9 is owned by small organized companies, like business people who owns this. And number 7 is owned by 1,100 Danish people who has a relation to Samso. They have a summer house there, they have relatives or friends there, so they bought this. And we bring these people out there, and we sell them tickets, all these 1,100 people. They come to the island every summer, so we sell them a very expensive ticket. They stay in a hotel, they buy a very expensive meal in a restaurant. So they use all that dividend from the wind turbines locally. So this is kind of a new green tourism, and this is very good for local business. It's just kind of a summary. What is happening now? We have opened what we call the Energy Academy. This is a meeting house for energy tourism, but it's also a meeting place for energy energy students, people who want to see how can we actually utilize the experience they had on Samso